Alrighty, sweet. Welcome everyone to the Business Growth Podcast. Today I'm here with James from J-Benn Finance, and we're going to be diving into things with his accounting business. Welcome to the show, James.
Hi, Leonard. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Awesome, cool. Now, I read the stuff you sent through in terms of what you're doing with the business. Sounds like you're working on a couple of different things, which is pretty awesome. So one of the things that stood out, you said at the moment you're looking at making life easier for company owners who feel overwhelmed with like finances. So what does that kind of like look like? Like how do you help clients make that finances easier?
Well, I think it needs to be rewound slightly to understand, accountancy in its whole. So there are a number of governing bodies within accountancy, and your normal high street accountant will be someone who is trained through ACA or ACCA, and they're very much what we call compliance focused. So doing your tax returns, doing your company taxes, doing your bookkeeping. There's another string of accountancy, which is the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, which tends to work more in businesses, for businesses, looking forward, budgeting, forecasting, being proactive in the business. And it's very broad, right? And I know anyone in the world I've just talked about on the other side of me will be having a go at me now in the comments, but that's broadly the split. And I sit in that CIMA, it's called Chartered Institute of Management Accountants Board. But we are qualified accountants, and we can run practices as we do, and that's where I've come from. So when I come into the practice from a compliance point of view and looking at accounts and looking at bookkeeping and looking at that, I want my books to be up to date. I want to ownership of as much of the finances for that business as possible, because there's no point me sitting down with a business owner 9 months after the year end to tell them how much profit they've made and how much corp tax they've got to pay, and not be able to take any actions to either mitigate that or reduce it with the options they have, or more importantly, give them early warning signs that their business isn't going where it is. So we aim to sort of, the way we've set up and the way we work with businesses is that we are pretty much an outsourced finance provider. So we take the bookkeeping, the payroll, the accounts, and everything, and we're on that, and we chase people down and get the supporting documentations and keep the books up to date. So then when we look at the numbers or we have meetings with the clients, we then talking to them about current information, right? So we're only a month behind, which is about as quick as you can go. And that gives those business owners sense. So comparing month on month, why are you down month on month? Why is revenue down? Why are costs up? What's going on in the business? And it starts them questioning themselves and learning about their business and learning about seasonal trends. That again, if you sit down 9 months after the year end and you're just looking at one number column, you don't know what's happening. And you as business owners, you would do marketing or sales drives, and how do you know whether one's better or not? You don't. You're guessing, right? And by guessing, the best guess you've got is how much is in my bank. And that's the worst thing business owners can do, is run their business by their bank account, because cash and profit are totally different things. Just because you've got cash in the bank doesn't mean you're profitable. As lots of people found out as they came into COVID. And there's loads of examples of businesses out there that the wedding industry business was like sort of wedding venue business was a massive one, that when COVID hit, they found out they weren't as profitable. They were profitable, but they didn't have good cash flow, because everyone pays you 2 years in advance almost to book their venue. So you've got their cash 2 years, and then suddenly, so you can easily run your business because you've always got cash coming in. But when COVID hit and all the hotels couldn't, or wedding venues couldn't take it, they found out that actually they're running their business on upfront cash. So that upfront cash dried away, and then it was gone. So there's a lot to be said about outsource. So we try and work with our business owners and engage with them and be a partner, not just that's the accountants, I've got to give them everything at the end of the year. So there is some, when we engage with them, there are certain business owners that it's not for, right? They don't want to run like that. And they're not our clients, right? So it's very clear as we come into discovery calls and onboarding clients of what people are looking for and what our do's and don'ts are and how we're going to work. And that's kind of how I've set up, coming from a commercial background into an accountancy practice, opposed to growing up into accounting practice saying this is how we've always done it. So that's kind of the background of J-Benn Finance and where we sit. And there's always outliers sometimes in clients where they want to do certain bits themselves, but in the whole, we manage it, the whole finances for every client, from
Right.
the
Okay.
beginning.
So it's basically they outsource their finance function. So rather than having like a finance department, they get you guys to do it. And
Yep.
then in terms of what you guys do, you do the reporting for them. But it sounds
Yeah.
like then you also do the like consulting and giving
Yep.
advice what they need
And
to do
yeah,
based on the
and
numbers.
that could be basic advice. The basic advice is pretty much, we would discuss things with them, but if there's a big piece of work or extra work off the back of it, then obviously there's fees attached to that. But
Yeah.
ultimately, having that, being on top of things, then gives us the ability to do things that could save them tax, or
Oh yeah.
manage where they want to go, right? It's not just always about tax minimization. It could be profit maximization, depending on what that business owner wants to do. So if that
Yeah.
business owner wants to go and get a bigger house, or wants to go and buy a company, or wants to go and sell his company, you might be looking at a different strategy than that,
Mhm.
than trying to
Mm.
purchase capital items or make pension contributions or stuff that
Yeah.
could minimize tax. So they're
Mhm.
two different things, and they have to be done within certain time parameters, and it's very important
Yeah.
to be on them. And yeah, and that's kind of how we look at it with our
Just give me
clients.
1 second. I just got to get the
Yep.
door. I've got a delivery. Sorry. Just 1 second. Yeah. Hello. All right. Should be open. Sorry about that.
That's right.
So you were saying you manage like giving them advice in terms of tax and depending on what their goals are,
Yeah, and
changing
and and
up
and,
what they
and
do.
sort of and business, business support really around using our contacts, because obviously, by working closely with that business owner, we want to be that trusted business partner, and a lot of them will come to us with other areas. I mean, you know, doing payrolls are really, a really interesting one, because it's a grey area, right? We can process payroll, but a lot of the time we will get questions that are really HR questions. They're not. They're
Mhm.
not. They're not payroll questions. They're
Yeah.
HR. So obviously, having a strong partner in the HR sector means that we can just pass those questions off. And they can, they can work with that HR advisor and do stuff. The
Mhm.
same on the legal sides, and things like that. Social media, advertising, marketing. We've got lots of contacts that we either do their books for, or we know them personally and we can vouch for them, and
Right.
other clients who've used them. So we can
Mhm.
save people time in that as well, by, instead of having to search through 30 different people and meet with 30 different people, we could give them 2 or 3 names that we know are
Yeah.
good in that industry. But really, yeah, it comes back to sort of like, you know, the other thing we can do and help business owners with is accountability. So I've written about it quite a lot, and believe in it massively, that ultimately there are like 4 boxes where, you've got 2 boxes at the top which you've got urgent and important tasks, and they tend to be the firefighting, and
Mhm.
that's what most business owners end up doing, right? I need to get
Yeah.
this done for this client. They're shouting. I need to pay this bill because they're shouting for me to pay, right? And they're
Mhm.
things that are really, you're just working in the business, you're just an employee of the business. Those items that are really important but non-urgent are the ones that really move the dial in a business.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it might be, coming up with a sales strategy, or a sales process, or a marketing plan, or putting, or calling 20 clients, 20% potential clients, right?
Mhm.
You always look at that on your to-do list and go, yeah, it's there, but I never get there, because there's always those urgent and important ones. But really and
Right.
truthfully, getting to those important and not urgent ones are the ones that move the dial on the business. And what we
Yeah.
found
Mhm.
is, like, literally, we have accountability people on accountability program where we will have a monthly meeting with them for 30 minutes. We do no work, right? We just
Mhm.
listen, and we'll have initial meeting where we'll talk to them for an hour or so. We'll come up, because ultimately the business owner in most cases knows their biggest challenges, and they know the answers to their challenge. They just never get there. So we'll
Yeah.
document them, and talk them through and go, which ones are going to move the dial the most? And they go, well, this one
Mhm.
and this one. We go, okay, right. By next month, have them done. And by having a meeting with us, a 30-minute meeting with us next
Yeah.
month, they get done, opposed to just getting put off. And
Mhm.
that's moved them from that box of important and non-urgent to now they've become urgent. right, and important, and they get done, and suddenly the dial moves. And I mean, I can, I've got a case study that we have on our website around a lady we worked with, and we found her like about £12,000 of revenue in one meeting because she wasn't consistent in her pricing.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, I really know I'm not really consistent, and I'm just a bit worried about talking to clients about it because, and you're like, okay, that's gone in the important but not urgent box because you don't want to do it, right? So you just keep pushing it. Well, let's get it done, right?
Right.
Let's either invoice at the higher level or talk to them about it. And she
Mm-hmm.
invoiced, they didn't bat an eyelid, they paid, and she's £12,000 a year better off through doing nothing.
Nice.
It's £12,000 of profit because it was just
Yeah.
what she was billing was incorrect or cheaper than
Yeah.
she should have been billing. So we do
Mm-hmm.
these accountability programs where people sign up for 12 months and we will have 12 months of meetings to move their business forward, and stuff like that. So there's the compliancy bit that we do and we love and people need, and then we've got this bit over here which is if people want it, right, and it's more optional and a
Yeah.
discretionary spend. But we believe from our case studies and our experiences that we can move the needle in those businesses and it pays for itself. But
Yeah.
so that's
Oh yeah.
kind of so we're a bit more than just an accountancy practice is kind of my long and short.
Yeah. 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 No, that's awesome. And then, like, as an accounting practice or slash business consulting practice, what's kind of like the biggest trends that you're seeing in the industry, like at the moment with doing that?
Yeah. So I would say the biggest trend in the accounting sector at the moment across the UK is that there is a lot of private equity money coming in to purchase up smaller accountancy practices and consolidate them and automate them and make them faceless. There are some good private equity out there, but there's a lot of bad. And we're seeing a lot of clients coming to us because they want to be able to talk to someone. They want to know who their accountant is. They want to feel valued. And that's not what they're seeing from this consolidation at a high level.
Yeah.
And that's been interesting. We've seen a lot of, most of the new clients that I'm having conversations with and are coming on board are because they don't want to be part of a faceless group that they don't know who they're talking to. And every time they ring up, it's someone different and they don't have a client manager and all of that things.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing is they're paying a good price for what they're paying a lot for what they're not getting in my eyes. So I think that's a big industry trend, right? And that's happened in the US and it's now sort of pushed across here, and we'll see how that plays out. But
Right.
from running our practice and what we're seeing more on the ground, from a limited company point of view, I think the headwinds for limited company owners is just economy, growth, and taxation. This year really has kicked in with the taxation on employees. It's been horrific for some clients. They've had to find £1,300 a month for a couple of our clients. They
Yeah.
didn't have £1,300 extra a month in to pay the tax man. So
Yeah.
as best as Rachel Reeves can say, oh, I'm not going to put taxes up, she just put prices up because the £1,300 a month wasn't swilling around the business, and with the business owner driving around in sports cars, they were small margins, so those prices have got to go up. So everyone gets hit by it in the end, and I think
Right.
that's been a challenge that you're seeing coming through now in the data in like job hiring going down, and the economy slowing because people aren't hiring. If people leave, they're absorbing that job, and they're just and you're seeing that feed through into the data, external data, and we're seeing it in the accounts. People are finding it tough out there. I think,
Yeah.
and I think that's been the leading thing that's come through, and I think there's also a lot of worry about what's going to happen on the 26th of November around the budget, because that there is the black holes talked about all the time about the tax hole burden that's got to be filled, and where are you going to fill it from? And if small businesses are hit again, I don't know how much they can continue to take, and I think that's quite a worry in the industry around like how they can do it. So I would say a big in an accounting industry, we're seeing private equity money come in and consolidation in accountancy practices, and what we're seeing is that isn't what business owners want. And then on the flip side, their headwinds are around tax and the economy and lack of growth, and investment. So it's a real challenge in market depending on the industry you're in. And I would say they're the two big challenges that we're seeing with our clients and in the industry generally.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of like what I've heard from the other accountants that I've also spoken with, especially around the tax and how people are gonna manage the new legislation and how it's going to impact their business. So yeah, that's a common trend that I've
Yeah,
heard.
I mean,
Um,
if you're, obviously in the UK we have limited companies, and then if you're not a limited company, you're a sole trader. And
mhm,
coming around the corner in the next 18 months for sole traders is effectively, if you earn a certain amount, you're going to have to go digital. So,
mm,
so the old way of doing one tax return a year, and it could be done on HMRC's website and everything, is disappearing. As of
yeah,
April, if you earn over £50,000, you will have to file through third-party software. So that means a software provider, the likes of Xero or QuickBooks or Sage or Apari Pro or Free Agent or whatever. They're out there. There's lots of software out there, but you have to file through that, and you have to file effectively 5 times a year now. So you have to do a quarterly return and then a
yeah,
final submission. Now, in the old, in previous years, you would go to your accountant and give them a bag of receipts, and they'd work through it. Well, that just isn't really going to work, because you've got a short turnaround at every quarter end, and accountants just will not be able to deal with a spike in the last 7 days of loads of people bringing bags of receipts in. It's just
mm,
not going to work. So, and you've got to be digital. So, it's a big shift in a way of working, right? That
mhm,
in a sector, which is kind of individuals, sole traders, that doesn't like change, right? People don't like change generally, and they're being
yeah,
forced to do something. And if you're going to start chucking in a new software provider, that's additional cost that they didn't have before,
yeah,
because they used HMRC's website and the paper. Now they've got to do
mhm,
software, so someone's got to pay. That software isn't free in most
mhm,
cases, so that's going to be an added cost. Instead of doing one file in a year, you've got to do 5. So if you use an accountant and they're engaged, that's 5 times we have to get involved with you now instead of once.
yeah,
So there's as we said, the headwinds that limited companies and businesses are seeing is the same in the smaller sector right at the end. They're going to have an administration burden that's probably going to be double what they paid last year.
mhm,
uh, and,
yeah,
and
okay,
and there's no there's no
yeah,
real way around it, because accountants will have to charge to make a profit in the same way that they're trying to
yeah,
charge their clients, and that will just be a knock-on effect. So again, you're going to see inflationary pressure, because everyone's going to have to put their prices up. So I think that's probably the 3 challenges that I see across the accounting industry and across the business sector as a
mm,
whole.
yeah, yeah. And I was just thinking in terms of, I guess, for an accountant with the extra reporting needed, it's almost a good thing for you guys because then it's extra work and then extra billable hours.
Yeah,
And
do you know what? I'm not sure. I don't. The extra billable hours and the extra work we've got to do is probably not, not. Sorry, mate. It's probably not what we really need, in honesty. What we need, what will be beneficial, the real beneficial thing by going onto digital platform, is that sole traders who never really got tax advice or thought about where, being tax efficient or profit maximizing or achieving goals in the tax realm can now do it, because we're keeping up to date records. So
yeah,
what happens traditionally is everyone will go through the tax year from April to March, and in March they then, then the stuff starts dripping through. Sorry, mate. Um, So you'll do from April through to March, and then sort of from April onwards that following year, you'll get the information. But again,
yeah,
it's past the event, so you can't go back and change things that have happened in that time period, because some things have to happen on certain dates. So you can't
mhm,
maximize tax efficiency in a
yeah,
self-assessment as much as if it's up to date in real time. So that will be the
mhm,
real beneficial thing for sole traders, that they can
yeah,
see their tax burden as they're going along, because they're uploading all the data, and most of the softwares do it, give them an estimated tax burden.
yeah,
So there's no surprise when they get the tax return
mhm,
back from the accountant or they fill it in. They've got an
yeah,
idea of where they're running. And also the accountant can come in and offer them additional services around, like some tax planning, or do you want,
mhm,
are you happy to pay that amount of tax? There
yeah,
are some options out there, but these are what the things you have to do. So
uh-huh,
that's where the real benefit lies, in improving the organization and of sole traders.
mhm,
But
Yeah.
it's extra work, it's an extra burden,
That's
it's an extra thing that those sole traders
yeah.
probably don't want to do because
Yeah.
they don't, because they're ingrained not to do it, right? And no one likes
Uh-huh.
change massively, right?
Yeah. And then how do you feel accounting firms are going to be able to handle that extra work? Because it sounds like you said it's going from like once a year to 5 times a year. So essentially 5x the amount of work with, I guess, more deadlines each of those 5 times. So how do you feel like an accounting
Yeah,
firm is going
I
to
think
handle that extra workload?
yeah, I think there's probably two camps. There's some accountants that are ahead of the game and really looking at it and got solutions in place, and I think there are accountants that aren't, and that's through, and I know that through talking to software providers and going to
Yeah.
conferences. Um, it's not going to be 5 times the work because it's like the whole year work, but it's split.
Mm.
But what it
Yeah.
does mean is you're right. There's 4 deadlines now, and we
Yeah.
have clients where you are pulling teeth to get the information for one deadline, right?
Yeah.
And what will happen is, unfortunately, those clients that don't comply or aren't on time will get charged more effectively because accountants won't have huge resource at quarter ends just to, you know, quarter ends just to deal with those people, right? Obviously, if you've got if you might need 10 people on the quarter end, but you're not going to employ 10 people all through the year. So
Mm.
you know
Hmm. Yeah.
they need to comply. And I think that I'm looking at it from a solution that I will give a DIY option where literally we provide the software and the
Mm.
client can do it all. They can link their bank account up, they can do their own bookkeeping, they can do their own submissions and everything. And all we do is provide that gateway to
Hmm.
HMRC, which won't exist going forward. If
Hmm.
they want us to look at it, then we can have an option where we would just look at it and review it for them. They still do most of the work, and then there'd be like a full service one where we will do the bookkeeping, we'll do everything. But
Hmm.
you know, there will there will be there will be deadlines for when we definitely can get it submitted. And if you go past it by not giving us stuff, we can't guarantee that submission because
Hmm.
we won't be able to deal with 50, 60 clients in 2 days. And
Yeah.
there's no way I'd put the team through that every quarter.
Hmm.
You're going to get burnout, you're going to get people hating it. It's just not going to
Oh
work,
yeah.
right? At the end of the day, as much as we would be processing it, the self-assessment is what it says on the tin. It's a self-assessment. It's you, the taxpayer, are responsible
Hmm.
for it. and
Yeah.
and you can't hide behind the fact that I've got an accountant doing it, if you don't
Hmm.
reply or send the information that they ask for. So I think there's going to
Yeah.
be some real hard, service schedules and letters of engagement and
Oh
you
yeah.
know difficult conversation to be had with some clients where they're just not hitting deadlines and going to get points and
Hmm.
fines eventually.
Yeah.
And you're going to get accountants that will do it and sit there till midnight doing stuff. But I don't think it's
Hmm.
good for the team or the industry if people do that, to be honest.
Yeah. 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 And I remember back when I used to be an accountant, yeah, how stressful like the month end reporting would be every single time. So I imagine it's going to be something kind of similar to that. And then have you seen much of a change in terms of like with the development of AI? Has it changed much in terms of like the industry and what you do?
I think there's elements where you can see it come in. I think a lot of the management accountancy pack softwares are using it to write commentary.
Yeah.
So obviously where it's just a question of it's up this month over this month and it's percentage and all of that things. I still think there's areas where it can definitely creep in and do more. Um, I've seen it where it's looking at sort of doing bank reconciliations or bookkeeping stuff, and it matches the nice ones that works where the process flows. But if it doesn't get it perfect and it's got to take a call on it or it needs more information, that's where it falls down, right? You've got to go and ring the client or email the client with the list, and
Hmm.
that's the time consuming bit. But that's not what AI does at the moment, as far as I haven't seen anyone offering that. you know
Hmm.
and that easy bit, you'd pay for the software, and that easy bit, it can do in 2 seconds, and you're like, well, we've got people there that can do it in 2 minutes. So yes, you're saving a bit of time there, but I've still got to have the person there to chase the client and go after the information and things like that. So I haven't seen, I think it will help and assist. I think a lot, I think it will help around the strategy side of things on businesses, because it can really look at, you can put, a good prompt in to look at sort of, strategy calls and ideas and planning and things like that, and things that we may not think about, or just miss, because there's such a wide range of options out there. And I think that's
Hmm.
really, really good to help accountants with.
Hmm.
But there's certainly lots of providers doing it. I dislike the providers that say I've got my AI bot, and really it's just, it's not really adding any value. It's just sitting in the corner. You know,
Right.
you want to see it integrated into a process, right, to improve something, not just an add-on stuck on a website. So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then I saw you said as well, in the answers that you filled out before the call, you said one of the things that's like the toughest hurdles for you guys is implementing like new tech stacks. So I guess it's kind of slightly related to AI, or
yeah, no, no, yeah,
what did that kind of look
no,
like for you?
100%. I think it's really interesting because on a Wednesday evening, that I join a group of accountants for an online like call. Really, it's just a general free for all chat and problems and
Mhm.
challenges and things like that.
Nice.
And it's really, because it can be quite lonely being an accounting practice owner if you're on your own, like me or many of the others out there.
Mm.
So it's really interesting to hear people setting up and them asking questions around tech stack and things like that.
Mm.
Um, and where the tech the providers they're using now compared to what my tech stack is.
Mm.
And obviously they're fresh and they can choose what they want and they're starting out. But it's interesting to then, to then go, yeah, well, I can change it later a date if I want. And you're like, not necessarily quite that easy. Anything that's client facing is a challenge, because we have a system that people can upload their receipts and their invoices to, and they've got a specific app and they've got a specific email address to push things forward, and that helps us because it goes straight in there, then it gets scraped
Mhm.
and improves our process.
Yeah.
But if I want to change that system, I either have to change it just for new customers and run two
Mm.
systems, or I have
Mm.
to go back over all those clients and
Mhm.
get them to download the new app, give them training on the new app, and give them a new email address. And then I
Yeah.
have to make sure they use it, because if they use the old system and I close it down, then it's gone. I'm not,
Mhm.
so at some point I have to monitor too. So it's a really hard when you set up, you're quite green when you set up and you go with certain systems and then you find out they don't
Mm.
work. You may not be able to change them. And although you ignore, people will look at my tech stack and go, oh, we discuss it, go, why are you using that one? This one's so much better. I go,
Mhm.
yeah, I agree,
Mhm.
but it's embedded in my processes now.
The
And
cost of change.
the cost of change and the effort to change
Yeah.
is not worth the benefit that I'm going to see. I'm not going to see the benefit
Yeah.
long enough. And so that's interesting to see when you look at like sort of tech stacks and discussing
Mm.
what systems you've got involved and things like that. And certainly looking at systems that don't affect clients is kind of key. They're ones you can tinker with,
Mm.
and you're kind of looking at, is it going to improve my business massively? Is it going to improve it for everyone massively? Or is it going to really save cost? And ultimately, a lot of
Mm.
the providers out there, the cost is similar. There's not a
Yeah.
huge delta in the cost, because
Uh-huh.
they're all trying to do it as cheap as possible, and they're all
Mhm.
marketing each other against each other, so they know how much each other charges. Um, so then the question is it better? Is it really that much better tech and
Mm.
worth implementing? And most of the cases, it's probably not. So yeah, that's an interesting one around sort of your tech stack and how you automate things and how you can get it really working well. Um,
Yeah.
and the difference between 10 years, right? I set mine up 10 years ago and I went with my tech stack, and 10 years on, you can see the change of the providers and
Mm.
who's out there, and people who have come into the market and offered
Yeah.
something fresh and funky and new, right? Um, but
Mhm.
but yeah, so that's probably, it's very interesting when you're comparing against other people and why they're doing certain
Mhm.
things.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely interesting in terms of, yeah, like you said, like the cost of change and like the cost benefit analysis, and how much work is it going to take now to implement this? How long is the reduction in efficiency while people learn this new stuff? Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like I know, like especially like Amazon as well, as an example, they're so massive. So any small change that they change, it's going to change the
Yeah,
entire process for everyone involved with that kind of area.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've changed. We use a proposal software, and I'm just switching that currently, and it's
Mm.
taken me probably a month to switch, and I'm
Yeah.
at the point of testing to make sure that when I put stuff in, and I get my proposal out and the numbers and what I'm charging, obviously very critical. It's consistent with what I've had previously. Now the systems
Yeah.
are very close, but there's nuances and differences, and
Mm.
and I need to be 110% comfortable that if I promote, if I do a proposal in front of someone, that the number it's kicking out is correct and my assumptions are right, because that I'm committing to that price for a year,
Yeah.
and unless there's material differences when we sort of get working together, that's what I'm stuck with, and I have to
Hmm.
I have to try and do it within that price. So that's quite that one again, it doesn't affect my current clients. I'm the
Hmm.
only person that does proposals, so it's just me, but it's
Hmm.
still taken me a month on and off. So it's taken me a lot of management time to get that switch done and get it set up and get all the templates done and all my letters, engagement, service schedules, and everything. And like you said, that that's time I could have been out there selling or doing more
Hmm.
discovery calls or trying to do marketing and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's weighing up where you are in the process.
Oh yeah.
And stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And some often you don't know how long is it going to take and all the little
until
bugs
until you start
with
in it. No, exactly,
yeah.
100%. So that can be, it can be a challenge, and like you said, the bigger the business, the bigger it is, the more
Mm.
difficult it is to change.
Oh yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
and managing that, I wanted to change another software, but the team said no because it does what it needs to do for them, but for me the
Hmm.
reporting was really crap, and I was hoping there would be better. There's a better system out there with better reporting, but they really didn't want
Mm.
to change. And I'm like, do I? They're not engaged in the change anyway, so if I force the
Hmm.
change on them, how less engaged are they going to be, right?
Yeah.
And actually, it's not it's not actually bad at the front end that we're using in managing our tasks
Hmm.
and our jobs. It's not bad at that. It's just the reporting's bad. But
Yeah.
I can dump the data out and I just have to do it off the back. So, again, is it worth
Mm.
changing? No. If I move anywhere else, it's going to be more expensive as well. So you kind of
Oh
tot it
yeah.
up. You go, do you know what? The time and effort plus the extra cost I'm going to have to pay for the software plus the pushback I'm going to get from the team, those three
Mm.
just, they're not aligned. So there's absolutely no point in
Yeah.
even thinking about changing. So that's
Oh
that,
yeah.
that's kind of, again, and I'm a small business the same as my my clients. So
Yeah.
I'm facing the same challenges as them, right? I see their challenges and I see my challenges and I see other clients' challenges.
Mhm.
And that's where that consultancy kind of area comes in that we can take some of those challenges we've seen that someone's overcome, and we can see that challenge come in for that business and say, well, this business over here did it this way and it solved it. It might be a
Mm.
way to
Yeah.
look at it. And
Hmm.
that's where that consultative piece really adds value to those businesses,
Oh
because
yeah.
that challenge over here might have taken 6 weeks,
Yeah.
and because we can accelerate it, it only takes them a couple of weeks to sort out.
Oh
um,
yeah.
so
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And then I guess to finish things off, what's kind of like the goals for you guys for like the rest of the year?
yeah, I think for us, we want to affect and help as many business owners as we can. So, if you're a business owner that you don't really know what your profit margin is, you don't really know how much profit you make each month, you don't really know where your costs are going, you know, you manage your bit, do you look at your bank account every day and think I'm doing well or I'm not doing well? If any of
Mhm.
those things ring true, then we want to help you, and we want to add more clients, and we want to support more clients improve. And we genuinely believe that with sharing our financial knowledge and the business owner's knowledge and working
Mhm.
collaboratively, you can move your business forward really quickly and protect
Mhm.
yourself a lot better. Um,
Yeah.
and 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 that's what our goal is. Um,
Uh,
how we do that, do we add it one client at a time, or do we look at acquisitions? I think that's down to, that's again a different conversation entirely.
yeah.
But I think you've got to, again, about those important but not urgent tasks. How are you going to grow your business? Well, you really need to have a plan. You really need to think about it, and you really need to write it down, because
Mhm.
it won't happen unless it's really thought about and really documented. And
Yeah.
that's what we've got. I've got a clear plan on what we're doing, and where we're going to go in the next year. And it will be to continue to add clients and grow and share our knowledge and
Yeah.
experience with those business owners. So that kind
Oh,
of the short answer to the long
yeah.
question.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Cool. And then if any like business owners are looking for some advice with all of those things, how can they find you?
Yeah, so if they hit our website, so www.j-benn.co.uk, you can book a call on there. If you search me, James Bennett, on LinkedIn, you'll see my drivel coming out every day. It's not really drivel. It's very helpful pointers for clients and businesses, and updates and videos and all sorts. So check me out on LinkedIn, message me through there. They are the two best ways to get me. Or if you want to come direct, it's james.bennett@j-ben.co.uk. So 3 ways. Just jump in touch and we will see how we can help you.
Awesome, cool. And I'll put the links below the video as well, so people can get those as well.
Super. Thank you very much.